Challenges, stress, and pressure are our gifts. Driven Mofos, welcome back to another episode of The Underestimated Entrepreneur. All right, massive thank you and shout out to all those. We're getting closer and closer and closer to hitting that 150 on Spotify for the 5-star reviews. So thank you so much to all of you who have rated and reviewed the podcast. If you haven't done so yet, please remember to rate it. It will only take like 2 seconds. Anyway, Driven Mofos. Adversity brings with it the equivalent opportunity. Now, right now, we are going through a bit of a decline in certain industries. And I've had a lot of people reaching out and saying, yeah, Michael, but the economy. Yeah, Michael, but you don't know what's going on in the industry. Maybe that's true. But here's the thing. When everything goes well, everyone wants to do it. So when an industry is going well, everyone jumps into that industry because there's a lot of money in it. Now, in Australia, we have NDIS. The government threw squillions of dollars, God knows how much, into the NDIS. So now there are so many people who jumped into the National Disability Support Scheme to make a quick buck. And a lot of people made a lot of money. Crypto. People see people making money in crypto. So they jump into the market, which then pushes the market up and creates a bit of a bubble. Now, I've already had an expansion, a contraction in that, and then now it's starting to expand again. But my point is that when you go into any industry, the building industry is exactly the same. You know, the government puts a whole bunch of incentives into building new houses. Then now everybody rushes into the property market. And so builders, they start building more properties. You start getting more people entering into the industry. You need more laborers, so they start coming in. And then all of a sudden the industry turns to shit because you start having a lot of crap coming into every industry that's inflating or growing really, really quickly. So the problem is that where there's opportunity, it already creates its own adversities. So when things are going easy, it actually starts creating a whole bunch of adversities that most people aren't ready for and aren't planning. But in reverse to that, if you look at it in reverse and the opposite, in adversity, there's a whole bunch of opportunities. So right now I'm working with a lot of business owners and they're coming to me saying, our industry is contracting. And I say to them, perfect, this is your time to expand. Now I learned this from Richard Branson, the owner of Virgin. And in one of his books, I read this many, many years ago. But what he said was that he took market share because every time that people were contracting, every time these big businesses were contracting, they would start to reduce their ad spend. They would start to reduce their marketing. They would start to reduce their PR. They would start to cut back on costs. So they would start to downsize their company. You know what he would do? He would then put his foot on the gas, borrow more money, and then go all in on taking market share. So when everyone else is contracting, he just expands into their space. And this is what happens. When something contracts, something else has to expand into that space. Because there's no such thing as empty space in the universe. There's something always going on. Now, if you look at it from a chemical perspective or a molecule perspective, this room that I'm sitting in right now looks like it's full of empty space. But it's not. It's full of oxygen, it's full of nitrogen, a whole bunch of other chemicals and molecules as well are all filled in this space. Just because I can't see that they're there, the space isn't empty, it's full. Now, anytime I suck in air from this environment, it creates a vacuum. That vacuum immediately gets filled with something else. My stomach could be pushing out into that space. And then as I breathe out, my stomach contracts back in and the space gets filled with more air or more oxygen or more nitrogen or whatever, carbon dioxide and so on. So what my point is that wherever we look in the universe, there's always something going on in that space. Even in a vacuum, depends on how the vacuums work. I'm not going to get into physics, but I just want to sort of create an analogy for people to understand that you can't have empty space. When an industry is contracting, something else is filling that space. The question is, what is filling that space? So if people aren't spending their money on one thing, they'll spend their money on another thing. If people aren't making enough money, then there's not enough value being created. Value will be created somewhere else because money just doesn't disappear in most cases. Sometimes it does, but in most cases it doesn't. But what my point is going back to Richard Branson, what he said is that when a company is contracting, he expands into that space. Now, when you've got an industry with multiple different companies who are all contracting, he just expands greatly into that space and gains market share. And then when they all start spending money, he starts to tighten up. So he just holds space. He just holds it there. And then once again, they start to contract again into the next contraction phase and he expands back out into their space. So he has expansion and consolidation. And so he keeps growing bigger and bigger. He tries not to contract into a space when everybody else is contracting. And so what I see that as being is this idea that adversity creates opportunity and opportunity creates adversity. When people come to me and they say they want to start a business because they see all this opportunity, I already know that there's a heap of adversity that they can't perceive or that they can't see. If they could see the adversity, it might not be as good an opportunity as what they think. So just remember that with every adversity creates an equal opportunity, and with equal opportunity becomes an equal adversity. If we keep thinking about it that way, you'll see opportunities in any industry that you're in. You'll see it in the environment that you're in. Like, I know that when markets are crashing, I saw this in 2020, I believe, 2020 or 2021. It was around March. And I was watching the market. Now, I don't watch it day by day or whatever, but it's just there. So I can see, like, as I'm looking at it now, it says the All Ordinaries or the ASX. I just have a quick look at it throughout the day if it's there on my screen. Normally, I've got stuff over the top of it because I've got different screens open and different tabs open. But when I saw this started, there was a rapid drop in the market. I saw that there was this contraction phase happening in the market, and I thought, bang, it's time to expand. So I threw a heap of money into the share market. And then all of a sudden, it rebounded within a couple of months, and bang, I got massive amounts of growth. So normally what you'll find is that rich people, when they see everyone else running scared and a market contracting, they go in and buy. But when a market is expanding heavily right at the end of its cycle, they're normally consolidating or pulling back and getting all their cash again ready to go. And so you'll see this happens time and time again. This is why the rich get richer and the poor get poorer. Because normally poor people, when they see everyone else doing well, they start to get anxious, they start to get greedy, they start to see the opportunity and they can't lose. So then they jump into a market and it's the top of the market, it's the peak of the market, and then it starts contracting and then they lose all their money. Rich people, on the other hand, they wait until the market's at the bottom and everyone's freaking out and the media is saying how bad something is, and then they go in and they start to gain market share. So I wanted to talk about this because there are so many people out there in different industries, whether it be the building industry, whether it be NDIS or the National Disability Insurance Scheme. It could be any industry. But what you'll find is that as things start to tighten up, you have to get better. If you keep growing and you work on you will grow into that space. Business is a mental game. It's a game of chess. It's not a game of just grind and grit it out, and the harder you work, the better your business is going to be. Hard work is one thing, but if you're a dipshit and work hard, you might grind and do a little bit better than other dipshits, but you're not going to do better than someone who's smart and who's intelligent, who puts in the energy and effort. So the best thing that you can do is really work on your own mindset and yourself so that when everyone else is contracting, you don't listen and you expand out into that space. I actually like it when industries contract. That's where I like making more of my money. Also, you get better staff for a cheaper price point. Because when everything's going well and there's a lot of money in an industry, people are poaching staff. It's hard to get good quality people. Staff are more demanding. Whereas all of a sudden, when things are contracting, unemployment goes up, it's a lot easier to get good quality people and bring them in, especially if you've got a good culture. So we want to think about how adversity creates an equal opportunity and how opportunities create adversity. Never forget that. If there's a great opportunity to make money, it also comes with it a counterbalancing adversity. Like, for instance, if you pop money into the share market at the bottom, you might have to ride that thing out for 2 or 3 years. If you're not prepared for that adversity, then you're going to be in a lot of trouble. Whereas if you can handle that adversity and you know that the adversity is going to be there, you'll come out on the other side very well off. Anyway, Driven Mofos, I hope that helps. I hope it gives you something to think about. I was just talking about this tonight on one of my calls, so I just really wanted to share. It'll give you something different to think about. I really believe in the law of balance and that everything in the universe is counterbalancing itself. So you just have to see the opposite of what's really going on. When industries are expanding and everyone thinks that everything's going great, that's normally where I start getting scared and start getting worried. When I saw the building industry and everyone jumping into it and people who are shit in business doing really, really well, I knew that the shit was about to hit the fan. Because normally, good players do really well at the bottom of markets because they know how to work them. Anyone can get into an industry that's expanding rapidly and do well. But the thing is, what happens when the industry doesn't do well? And so that's why we always want to think about its counterbalancer. You know, when business is going well and countries are doing well, unemployment is normally low. But when unemployment is low, it makes it really hard to hire good quality people, pay them well, remunerate them well, and also to push them to get good quality outcomes for the company and to grow as a team. It's hard to do that when people are just throwing money at them. Whereas when everything tightens up, when unemployment goes up, people are grateful to have jobs again. And I'm not saying that, you know, unemployment is a good thing. I'm just saying that it's its counterbalancer. I think that anytime we're grateful, we do well. So if people are grateful for jobs and businesses are grateful to give jobs, and then we work together as a team, everyone succeeds. So I succeed because my team succeed, and my team succeed because I succeed. I think that's how good businesses operate, and they should operate. Where if you look at in a shitty environment is that businesses underpay staff get pissed off, then eventually an industry starts to boom, and then the opposite happens. Staff devalue businesses and they don't give a shit about businesses and management and leadership. And then now all of a sudden, the businesses start overvaluing staff, and then you end up with an imbalance again. We always need to think about balance and also the law of value exchange as well, is that if we can keep creating value, you will always do well in any environment. Anyway, just something to think about. Have a great day, Driven Mofos. Keep kicking ass, and I look forward to you joining me back here once again for another episode of The Underestimated Entrepreneur. Most people waste their life, and I just don't want you to be one of them.